Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees. I'm here with my co-host, Clint McPherson. What's going on, man?
Not much, brother. Just like always. I mean, I can't reiterate enough how excited I am to be here to host the show with you on That Entrepreneurial Life. But enough about that, man. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off and welcome our special guest, Kendra Muecke, to the show.
Hi, how's it going today? Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, Kendra. Yeah, it's great to have you on here. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into everything, we're going to ask you some questions. We're just going to have a cool, conversation about entrepreneurship with you. But before we get into that, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kendra Muecke. I'm in a band titled Kendra the Bunnies Music. I'm working on releasing my third album with the band. I've also released a couple singles. I've published 2 books as an author. Both of them are poetry. I'm currently working on a memoir as well as my third book of poetry that's going to include lyrics, the meanings of songs and everything else I've been writing in between all these songs that come through. Additionally, I am an actress and very active in a few nonprofits that I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. I mean, just right there, before we even got on the show and started recording, we know you have your hands full, right? 2020 is crazy in itself. But with all that said and everything that we researched and saw that all the pokers you have in the fire, right? I mean, can you go back and tell us where your entrepreneurial journey started as an artist and what it is about entrepreneurship as a whole that you're passionate about?
Yeah, definitely. So as an artist, we like to call ourselves Artrepreneurs, which is kind of a fun play on words. I would say the actual part of like beginning to build myself as a business started like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after college. I did the whole soul searching thing. I studied theater arts in college. So I was like, okay, I know I'm a performer. I've been a performer for life, but I did a little bit of the soul searching after college and realized, okay, I am additionally a singer-songwriter. So I'm going to put that foot forward. I'm going to be a musician forwardly. That includes everything that I do. That includes acting. That includes singing. That includes all the poetry that I write. Put it all together, put myself on the stage. And once I decided what my best foot forward would be, I knew that I could then start building a plan from there. So the interesting thing about the music business is you can be just an artist, but the way to really like make waves and get things going is to begin being your own manager, your own PR. The way I started this as an entrepreneur, as an artist is I decided, okay, I know everything about acting because I went to school for acting. I went to college for theater arts. So like if you want to put me backstage as a stage manager, if you want to put me on stage, if you want me to direct, if you want me to write the script, I know how to do all those things when it comes to theater and it comes to acting. So once I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a musician, I put myself in a school program at the Musicians Institute so that I could learn all of those distinct phrases. I could learn how to mix, master, be my own manager, put together all my social media as an artist who's putting themselves out there. So the first thing I did is I got heads down in learning everything I could about my craft. This goes into practicing. This goes in next to networking and, just like creating content, creating relationships. And that's kind of how I got started.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. That's a great, kind of a great insight. We've heard that from other music artists, other artists in general that really they needed to kind of take control of their own career. And that in and of itself is very, very entrepreneurial, instead of just kind of letting a manager or, somebody else dictate, how and when you perform and how you make money and all these things, being in control of that yourself is exactly. Yep. Yeah. So that's very cool. Well, yeah, you have all these things going on. As an artist, a podcaster, even a social media marketing coach, but that's a lot to juggle. What does a typical day in your life look like? It may have looked a little different maybe a year ago as compared to right now, but
Yeah.
what are you doing on a typical day?
Yeah. So in a typical day, in a perfect world where we're able to like leave the house and go see people and pre-COVID and get together in that way. So I'll do like a little hybrid of the two. First of all, great cup of coffee in the morning, gonna wake up, going to count my blessings and just do whatever it takes to get my mind in that mindset of going straight towards my emails. That's the first thing I like to check is my emails, my social media, see what is exactly like on my new to-do list, what's on my to-do list for the day that I may not have foreseen because it's all those emails coming in, stuff like that. I respond to the most prompt ones, and then I get started on my to-do list, do as much as I can off of my to-do list, and then I'll reach over to start working on some music. So let's say I've got a few songs that I'm working on. I'll start working on some songs, see where those are at. If I'm in the middle of recording something for a project, I normally like to record after. I do record at home because I learned how to mix and master at that school, and it's been really great during the quarantine being able to like have that optimum control over even like my recordings and stuff like that. So I do like to record after the sun sets. But it's really great. It's just like, people are more quiet during that time, and I'm more in the zone. I'm kind of a night owl that happens to work well because I'm a musician. Practice music, record a little bit if I need to record. Then next, so let's say when life is normal, or what even is normal, I would be headed to go to a concert, either to perform for a singer-songwriter night or to go see a friend, because it's a really great way to network when I go to like shows, start talking to the people on the lineup, start talking to the sound engineer, see if anyone's manager is there, just, make friends and be amiable. Additionally, sometimes at night, I will be going to like, this is fun because I live in Hollywood. I'll be going to like red carpet events, networking in that way, reaching out for new like nonprofit opportunities. Because most of the times these red carpet events are sponsored by some sort of like nonprofit or some sort of cause. Just like dip my toes in that. I really like where I live, living in Los Angeles, and everyone's got so much of a grind mentality. And then like now transition that to, I'm actually doing like live streams. So I'll do like a live stream show, 45 minutes, hour to an hour and a half, rest a little bit, I take a couple breaks throughout the day. And then at night I will do, working on whatever writing I'm working on, like literature writing. Or if I'm not particularly in the mindset, maybe I had a lot to do that day, I will write something in my journal or do some sort of meditative practice to bring myself back to center. Because it's kind of like, as an artist and an entrepreneur, it's like when someone's running a marathon and they just grab the water that's next to them, but they just keep running. It feels like that sometimes. It's like project, little bit of water. Here we go, meditate, sleep.
I love that. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So I love how you explain how you actually pivoted, right? Like pivoted from, what you were doing pre-COVID to like COVID, having to do the live streams. And I really think as an artist, that is so important to stay in touch with people, especially with you. You can't go out and touch people, right? You can't go out to these concerts, and you can't go out and have that impact and talk to the sound engineer at your friend's show or somebody that you're supporting. You can't go to the red carpets, it's like, it's crazy. So I love hearing that, obviously that shows the entrepreneurial spirit that you still have as an artist. So I love that.
Yeah. And ironically, people need entertainment more than ever right now.
Exactly.
So even if they can't get it live, I feel like everybody's consuming it at an incredible rate. So
yeah. I wanted to mention that it's been really cool in this way. Like there's always a gold lining, always a silver lining to stuff. One, like during this whole quarantine, stay at home type thing, I've been able to do a certain amount of self-reflection that I've also matured in a whole new way that I didn't quite notice happening. It's just like there was a development in my way of thinking and the way I think about myself and the time in my day and kind of like my existence. So that's one benefit. Another thing is like you mentioned, like with these live streams and stuff, we're all kind of in this like well, speaking from my own perspective, this like emotional place of like what's going on, stuff like that. So I've realized that during my live streams, my face is right there. You get to see all my emotions. I'm reacting to people's chats in live time, and I'm really communicating my lyrics directly to the people. So it's a really, really great thing because, when I'm performing on stage or like at a club, to get every single lyric into the audience's ear is a lot more, can be efficient when it's right here on the live stream as well.
Yeah, it's more intimate in a way because you're really kind of, you're really able to see the artist a lot better. Even if you're only, in a place that only holds 50 to 100 people, you still might not really pick up on all that, everything that you're really putting out there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, the subtleties.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So Kendra, as a social media marketing and entrepreneurial coach, right? I came across that on your website as well. How important is it for artists like yourself to leverage social media marketing to grow their brand online, to help create that distinct and separate that distinction within their niche?
Mm-hmm. It is literally so important. It's actually something I'm super passionate about because there's so much ability to be able to scale like as an artist just a little bit at a time and make all these major waves and get recognition in our industry just by being able to keep up with the professionalism of someone's social media profile, the professionalism of someone's website, being able to showcase one's best self online at all times. Additionally, this is also going to help with like playing into the algorithm. Then you get discovered by more people, and then you're letting the algorithm do like the nitty-gritty work for you. Maybe always have an ad going at the same time. Creating a niche is super important. On that note of like creating an ad at the same time, I'll be going through like Instagram stories or something, and someone's ad comes up, and it's a singer-songwriter, whether they live in America or whether they live in California or whatever. I'm just like, oh, there's another singer-songwriter. What's interesting is you mentioned pivoting earlier. I used to think when I'd come across those ads, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many singer-songwriters. Like, what am I going to do? Like, look at this competition. Oh my gosh, she has blonde hair. Oh my gosh. I realized like you mentioned about the niche. Take those moments where I realize, okay, what was captivating about the ad? I like that directly you can notice that I'm going to relate to a girl because obviously, but immediately I'll notice, oh, she's wearing this. Oh, she's sitting like this. Oh, the first lyric of her song hits like this. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, having that scarcity mindset of like, oh, they got there before I did, or, it's just I'm seeing an ad. Instead, I'll take those bits and pieces and say, okay, well, the next time I'm doing professional footage, I'm going to wear something knowing that I could use this footage for an ad or this footage for like a YouTube video that's very gripping.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important to analyze what your competition is doing. I mean, and I've talked about this with Andrew, and I believe we've mentioned on the show, I don't even view competition really as competition, right? Because we can all learn from each other. I own a digital marketing agency, and I come across local digital marketing agencies that I'll try to network with or talk to just to see what they're doing. Not to like dig down deep and get inside their brain, but just to talk to them as another organization that does the same thing that my company does. And they basically shy away from that because they think I'm trying to get an edge over them or trying to learn some inside tactic. Like, I'm like, brother, I already probably know what you know. I'm not even focused on that, right? But they take that scared mindset, and we talked about how podcasting has totally been opposite. So I'm in my own digital marketing game in agency, and then I'm sitting here trying to network with other digital marketers and just to see what's going on, and they don't even want to like go back and forth. But the podcasters, on the other hand, even if your podcast is the same thing that they're doing, ours is obviously entrepreneurship. And even another one that's in the entrepreneurship game, they're glad to be on our show. We're glad to be on theirs. And it's like a happy family. And it's just like, why can't we do that? Whether it's an artist, whether it's a digital marketing agency, whether it's a product engineering company. I mean, come on. It's not, there's so many fish in the sea. I think everybody views competition as a bad thing and views competition as you trying to steal food off their table. But it's not like
right. Well, we all like get to the top of our own mountains and we realize we're like, oh, this is my own niche. I'm my own person. And I think I noticed what I think about the whole podcasting thing, people being more like apt to tell you kind of like how they do podcasting or network more with you, is I feel like when people interview other people, even if you have the same person on your show, you're going to get at different parts of the moment, and you're going to reveal different things about their character and about their interviewing skills. It doesn't have to be a competition at all, because I mean, we're all different and we all bring something to the table. And even like, you know, there's the whole thing that like, there's only 13 stories that exist or something like that. So let's say every single famous story, every single movie, every single book is based off of like 13 styles of character traits that can play out in certain ways. And I don't personally believe that, because it's like, there's way more than just 13 stories, but to take that idea and say, okay, well, if everything's already been written, then I don't need to worry about competition or someone getting there before me.
Right. Because somebody's really already been there always in some way. Right. So exactly. Yeah. And especially with art, I mean, people just are always interested in what's the next thing. You know, there could be 10 people, there could be 100 people that sound just like you out there. And a lot of people are going to want to hear all of them, you know, because they're not just going to listen to one artist over and over and over and over again. I mean, unless they're listening to the radio, and then that might be a different story. But, you know, now with all the streaming options we have, it makes it so much easier, so much more interesting. Like as soon as, I mean, I remember listening to a lot of songs on the radio and not having many streaming options. And, you know, around the time when like LimeWire and Napster and all that stuff was going on. And, you know, yeah, you try to download a few songs and you're like, oh, maybe it'll download by like dinner time or, you know. But now that we have so many options, it really, I've, you know, experienced so much more music, and I'll listen to one artist and then I'll get you know, I love how platforms like Spotify allow you to bounce around and connect one artist to another and then to another and to another. And you discover all this awesome art that's out there. I mean, I thought for a while, I thought Bob Marley was like the only reggae guy in town.
Right.
And then I realized, no way, there's so much. Yeah.
Well, it's just like everybody's creative genius is different. I mean, you know, there's only one Kendra Muecke, right? There's only one Andrew Lees. There's only one Clint McPherson. But when you look at it, you know, you might be in the same genre. You might be, you know, indie rock or pop or whatever you do. It's like, yeah, that might be your thing. And you might be, you know, categorized in this bubble. But music takes on a form of itself. An artist takes on a form of itself. And, you know, there's so many different thoughts. You know, there's only one Alanis Morissette, right? It's like, people can try to copy, but the people that try to copy they just don't go anywhere, right? It's like you got to know your genius. You got to kind of stay within where your wheelhouse is, and I really think as an artist that's very wildly important.
Yeah, and also you have to be creating stuff all the time too. So if someone's going to like, you know, there's one thing about being inspired, but if someone's going to completely just like imitate or like copy certain things, maybe they don't even know that they're doing that. There's only a certain amount of time before they either have to move on to a different style to copy, or they have to develop their own voice. I mean, a lot of times when people are starting to sing, starting to write or like play guitar, they take on the style of the one that they read or listen to the most. And I do that as well. But then I also develop my own voice through that. I think it's Michael Caine that says like, steal from the best. He says that about acting. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think stealing is like when it comes to something that has been written, right? Plagiarism, you know, at its finest. But it's like, if you do something like that, right? If you try to plagiarize somebody's without having your own thought incorporated into that, I'm not talking about taking somebody's idea and running with it and then expanding upon that idea. That's cool, right? Because then you can create all your own content around that one idea with your own thoughts. Right. And so it's one of those things that like it's just cool to see somebody take a piece of something, even if it's already been done, and make it their own. I think it's what is that popular, like the talent show where everybody wants to go on
America's
and sing.
Got Talent?
There,
or
America's Got Talent. Yeah, America's Got Talent. So that pops up on my Facebook all the time. I don't know why. I guess because I sit there when I'm just relaxing, I sit there and listen, because these singers and artists just blow me away by taking somebody else's song and making it their own and singing it in a way you've never heard it before. And that's, to me, that's mind blowing when you take something that's already so widely popular and then you get up there and you use your own talent and the voice that you've actually like just molded, and they blow you away better than the original person, like a Whitney Houston or somebody like, you can't touch her. Why are you even trying to sing that song or that Mariah Carey song or whatever it is? Like, you can't hit those notes, but they sing it in their way and they just kill it. They just slay it. And you're like, what? You know, and that stuff right there gets me excited. I'm not even an artist, but that type of stuff just shows you that you can take something that's already there and make it your own.
I also wanted to mention that I noticed this one thing. I noticed this about the way that like fans work and the way that audience works. So I'll be on someone's Instagram page and it's, you know, a singer and she's got 100,000 followers. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of followers. Then I go over to someone else's page and he's a rapper and he's got 200,000 followers. And I go to someone else's page and they've got, you know, 500,000 followers. I'm looking at people who have a lot of followers and I'm thinking, I'm like, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And then I thought to myself, I wonder if there's any of those groups that overlap. And then I realized it's probably a really small portion, meaning that even though each of these people have a ton of fans, they each have their own fans. There's a bunch of people to reach out there. There's billions of people in the world. There's a lot of people in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I know in the US alone, there's like 328 million or something like that. So it's just like, you know, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people to reach. And everyone's going to connect to different people on different topics and then connect to other people on different topics as well.
Yeah. And it's more important whether you're an artist or, you know, or any other kind of entrepreneur. It's, you know, it's really important to have better engagement. So even if you only have 10,000 followers, which is still a great number, and you have better engagement than somebody who's got 100,000, you know, you might be able to connect with that audience more. You might be able to, you know, generate revenue in a better way, just because, you know, so that's the real important thing. And you want to just have a really like ride or die community of people who, yeah. And that's, if you've got that, then, and if you're focusing on that instead of the numbers, then, you know, instead of just growing this huge volume,
I mean, bro, it's give me 100 true fans, and the ones that will pay you, you know, recurrent, like will pay you for whatever you create, man. Those are the ones that you want. Who cares about the followers, the 100,000 followers or the 200,000 followers? Because at the end of the day, I'm not saying those people with that high of a following are not making money off of somebody. But I'm telling you, like 100, 200, 500 just true people that ride or die with you no matter what, listen to your songs, consume your content, your poetry, whatever. Those are the ones you want, because those are the ones that are going to stay engaged. Those are the ones that are going to reach out. Those are the ones going to be on your lives, right? The events when COVID's hit and stuff like that. Those are the ones you want.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are going to be picking up on the different themes that I bring throughout my art. You know, it's really interesting when I listen to artists that I love. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're bringing back that theme from 3 albums ago. That's so exciting. I'm excited that they're talking about that again, and that it makes me realize like that artists are their own people and they go through their own things, and they're going to repeat different things that are prevalent in their life over and over.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of core things that everybody has, so everybody can, you know, speak on it, sing on it, you know. So. And yeah, they just put their own spin on it. Yeah, it's very cool. So Kendra, you're involved with an organization called Strings for Hope that recycles guitar strings to make jewelry. And the coolest, Clint and I were both looking into it. The coolest part about that is the jewelry is handcrafted by women who have been impacted by addiction, domestic violence, and human trafficking. Can you tell us a little bit more about that business and how you got involved with it?
Yeah, so the name of the nonprofit or the business is Strings for Hope. They're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. And this is one of those awesome stories about how I got linked up with someone during the quarantine via the internet and via live streams. So my booking agent reached out to me and said, hey, we're booking a live show for this group called Strings for Hope. So basically what'll happen is Strings for Hope is sponsoring the event. We will go live and we will thank them for sponsoring, and they will cross promote and cross share on their page as well. So it's kind of like we're creating this like virtual venue in the sky or something like that. So it was really cool getting to know them. And what they do is they provide a way for people who've been impacted by, like you mentioned, addiction, domestic abuse, as well as human trafficking. They help them get a second chance by employing them to create these pieces of jewelry. So it's kind of like the secondhand chance for someone's guitar strings becomes a secondhand chance for someone who's recovering from a hard situation in their life and some traumatic turmoil as well. So people send in their guitar strings. They send them to the people that they're able to help through this cause. They create the jewelry, and it creates a way for those people to bring in income, whether they're in a halfway house or in some sort of environment that allows them to be tactile with their hands as well. I'm also part of this group called Artists for Trauma. So Artists for Trauma was created by this woman named Laura Sharp, who was her story is one where she had to recover as well. And so she used the creative aspects of her life to be able to recover, bring about more like mental clarity, spiritual healing, as well as physical healing. So she started a nonprofit that helps veterans, people who have PTSD, people who suffer from addiction, also kind of people who are coming back from a traumatic point in their life. We put on events. I volunteer with them here in LA as well. We put on events where we will provide music, art, painting, and just kind of like a community, like a little bit of a small festival or an event where people can come and just do art and be together and heal in that way. So those two organizations are kind of similar. They're providing a way for people to recover through art. And I think that's really important because I myself have been through, I don't know, just, a few different things. And art is always that thing I come back to, whether it's nothing major or anything, but little things in my life. Art is always the buoy that keeps me going.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think as a kid too, right? You can relate to that as well, because I mean, typically before you start writing or anything, you're scribbling or you trying to draw something, right? You might know your ABCs, but writing them out is a little harder than actually just drawing a messed up circle or scribbling on a piece of paper. And you can kind of relate. Yeah. You can kind of relate to that with that. And I think it's cool because any time that I get stressed out, I drew a lot when I was younger. Anytime if I get stressed out, I can just doodle something and it relieves some stress because again, that's that kid part in me that hasn't left. And it's an outlet that I have that I can draw something, even if it's not me sitting there drawing a portrait of something, or taking time. My kid is huge into superheroes. When I was younger, I was not that kid. I was a sports kid. So I always had a ball in my hand, but it's like now I cherish those times and cherish those moments because I can go back to being an artist, spending time with my two kids and my kid wanting me to draw something for him. And then I draw something for him and he gets so excited. Right. And so I really think you can tie it back to that kid trait, or what, I don't even know if that's even something real, but I really think that's how my brain works. Thinking your
inner kid. And yeah, I mean, I think you can use that there's something really therapeutic about art. And I feel like when I saw the Strings for Hope website, I really thought, it made a lot of sense. Like I feel like you could really lose yourself in just, making something repurposing something. It looks really cool. And I feel like it would be, kind of fun to make, and you could just lose yourself for hours probably making those things. So yeah, that's really neat.
So Kendra, through your entrepreneurial journey and everything that you have going on, everything you've done in life, from the highs to the lows, what has been the most difficult thing about your journey to date?
A few different things, but I would say when it comes to my entrepreneurial journey, I would like to mention that all the things happen for a purpose. So it's like, even though I went through this or I went through that or different mindsets, and that's really what I'm going to touch on, I always come out on top because that the only way out is through. You just keep going. You just keep climbing up the mountain. You rest when you need to, drink water when you need to, get in touch with people. But I'd say as far as like being someone who has their own business, because I am officially my own business as well, it was breaking through the naysayer mindset. And I say it like that because it seems like all these naysayers are coming from the outside, but it's really, I realized like I was in that mindset. So I was projecting, I was attracting those moments where it was like, are you sure you really want to do this? Has anyone told you you're any good? How are you going to make ends meet? Does anyone like your music? Have you ever written a song before? All those things that are basically just, you know, I guess self-doubt mindset too. I realized that I was projecting those things because I was worried and I wanted someone to tell me, oh, you're on the right path. And it would be like, you know, I'd get like 7 and 1. It would be like 7 negative thoughts. And then it would be one thought that was like, you can do this. You're doing the right thing. You're on track. You're right on time. Everything's perfect. You're doing amazing. Everyone loves you. Stuff like that. But it would be like 7 negative thoughts and then a good thought. So I would project that out and get 7 different occurrences with people. And mind you, I'm very like in my head and stuff like that. So maybe these occurrences aren't really happening where someone stops me on the street and they're like, oh, you think you're so good with like your music and stuff. It's really like, you know, I'm getting out of the car, I'm going to the grocery store and I overhear someone talking to someone else and they're just like, yeah, I just don't really know if she knows what she's doing, and then I'll internalize that. So that's like the definition of projection, where I'm like taking whatever's going on in my mind and like trying to find evidence that it's happening outside of my mind too. So then once I just like had a lot of like self-healing, self-acceptance, taking away those facets of myself that like, you know, knock myself down, that's when it started to clear away. And that's when the positive thoughts came through and the naysayers went away when I started to accept myself. And that's when I realized, oh, I've been doing this to myself, and realized just how important mindset is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to, you definitely, you know, it's easy to get in your head and really internalize a lot of things, you know, I mean, we've talked about it on the show a lot, but it's definitely a roller coaster. You know, being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster. And so you've got life. Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneurship is a metaphor for life. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point. You know, it's just kind of getting through that and getting through the negativity of even, you know, even people, even loved ones can, you know, they're really looking out for you and they want to make sure that you're safe and that you're, you know, that you've really thought through everything. And so, you know, there can always be some level of doubt, you know, especially in the beginning when maybe you're more unproven, but the more proof you start to give that, hey, I can do this, then that starts to like, you know, I feel like put the, you know, the negative thoughts and the negative, you know, comments at bay. So
you're always going to have the person that says, I told you so, right? Like when you fail. But it's really more surrounding yourself with people that will lift you up when you fail, instead of being that person that I said, I told you so. Right. I mean, it's like for me, it's my wife, right? And she's there no matter what. I served in the military for 10 years. She didn't like it at all. But anytime I got injured or did something, she was always there to pick me up. She wasn't like, oh, you served in the military, you knew you were going to get injured, or you knew you were going to get hurt. You knew it was a huge chance to do this. But she wasn't somebody that did that. She was somebody that she's somebody that picks me up, right? When I struggle in my business, or when something happens or I make the wrong decision. Just like recently, I went in business with my father. The thing went from everything was hunky dory to the next day he popped smoke, right? And it's like, bro, what happened? Like, he's gone. And so now that business is like non-existent anymore. And so those are things that you just have to say, you know, even though at the end of the day, I was like, you know, I knew that was a possibility of that happening. I didn't know it was going to happen that quick. But even with that, she was still in my corner and said, look, she didn't say I told you so. It was a conversation that we knew it was a possibility of something like this happening in the future, that the business wouldn't succeed. But again, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm willing to take risks and gambles. Obviously, that one didn't pay off. Everything else I've done is still going forward. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that like you just have to surround yourself with individuals, friends, family, that are the ones that say, I told you so, and let everybody else, the naysayers, surround themselves with your glory afterwards and say, oh yeah, I'm your cousin or whatever. Because you're popular.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
Wait, who are you again?
Right?
We were like best friends in high school. I've known her forever.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is like, I reminisce on those moments and I'm like, well, I have always wanted to be friends with that person. So if they come back around and they're like, hey, I really like your music, I'm going to be like, let me forget all those years of like feeling slightly bullied by you and just accept that we're finally friends. I also wanted to mention, so since I've been super active on social media for like ever, basically since high school or whatever, but when I transitioned my social media to a professional presentation of myself, when I really launched my career as a musician, I realized like I already had a pretty decent audience because I'd been building my social media platform just by being, a millennial or whatever for like 10 years or so. So when I started to switch over to having a professional presentation of my music, I realized that people are really seeing the whole journey. People are seeing from the day I decided, oh, she's going to move back to Los Angeles. Oh my gosh, she's enrolled in school. Oh my gosh, she's releasing an album. Whoa, she just got her first blog interview. Whoa, she's gotten 10 blog interviews. Look at all those streams. And I feel like it's a really great way to show people that's like, you can start and then you just go and you just build. And I feel like it's been inspirational. I've had some people reach out to me and they're just like, I love seeing your journey. I've decided to start this business. I've decided to start this podcast, or I'm writing again, and stuff like that. And so it's like, to draw on the point of like, surround yourself with people who pick you up when you fall down. I also love the fact that it's like, people know they can reach out to me when they do fall down because I'm very like transparent on social media and I'm very transparent in my music and stuff like that. So people know they can reach out to me and they're like, hey, I don't have anyone to talk to. And if I have the time, I'm definitely going to answer because I know what it's like to not have anyone besides my direct family be there for me. And it's like, I'm not complaining, but I don't want other people to feel that way because they shouldn't, because we all go through emotions. We all go through troubling times, troubling waters or whatever, but there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have humble people around you, they're gonna support you. They might think, hey, it's a risk, but you're all in the same boat of like, of course it's a risk, but let's see what happens. And you mentioned, inspiring, if you can inspire somebody else to start a business or something and follow that kind of self-starter entrepreneurial journey. That's so cool. And those are the kind of people who, they can support you and you can support them too. So it's like, they're not just fans, they're really like more than that. So I think that's really cool when you can have more of those kind of people around you. And that's when you're really going to connect with them, when they look at you and say, hey, I can do that. Or, or you're inspired. I don't know if I can do that, but you're inspiring me to try. So,
right.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. You like do the work, you suit up and show up, and then the results happen, and you just keep doing that over and over. It's like practice. I used to play softball growing up, and it was like, I would look forward to practice because it made me ready for the game. So during the game, I could just rely upon all the practice and the teamwork that we had already established as a team.
Yep. Yeah. That's when the game is really won, right? Is in the preparation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So Kendra, as we wrap up this episode, I feel like we could talk to you for a while here, but but what's one piece of advice that you could give our audience, that would help them on their entrepreneurial journey?
Believe in yourself and invest in yourself. And investing in yourself can mean so many things. That can mean like you always take the time to journal before bed. You always meditate when you wake up. You give yourself a certain amount of time that you invest in yourself, as well as don't be afraid to invest in yourself monetarily. It's going to feel like you're betting on 33 black at a roulette table. And you're like, oh my gosh, I hope it spins my way. I hope it spins my way. But at the end of the day, as long as you do all the preparation work, you get to know the people that you're working with and that you're putting your money towards. Like for me, like different PR companies I'm going to work with, or different like musicians I'm going to work with. I do the proper research. So then when I put the investment, in the direction of which I'm going, I already know that it's going to create capital and come back tenfold. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself, but definitely do the research to know, all the different places you could invest. Also, one thing I really like to do is take 24 hours, sleep on it, take a week. If there's no exact time frame, give yourself a little bit of time to get in touch with your intuition and feel where that decision actually sits. Because I'll know when I'm going to make a decision, if it like remains up here or like in a good place, then we're good. But then when it moves down, I think about it for a day or two, and all of a sudden it feels like someone punched me in the stomach. I'm like, okay, well, I gave myself enough time, and either I'll put this decision furthermore on the back burner, or I will, make the proper decision based on what my intuition and the time I invested in myself has told me to do.
That's great. You can. I mean, I think that's a great point that when you have the time, I mean, some decisions need to be made right away, but really most decisions can wait. And it's so important to not feel like you're going to miss out on an opportunity, like a once in a lifetime opportunity, because there's always an opportunity to capitalize on something, and you should never feel like, if I don't, go with this, PR company right now, I'm never going to get another chance to do it. It's like, no, you're going to be fine if you don't work with them for another week or month or whatever. And so I think that's really important to figure out what you want and not waste too much time, but at the same time, take enough time to really evaluate all your options and understand what you're getting into.
Right. And if the decision is the right decision to make right at that point, just do it and trust in yourself, and then enjoy your successes. Yeah. Surprise, most things do work out.
Oh, for sure. You just got to trust the process, right? That's what it's all about. I mean, I think your intuition speaks a lot. And if people don't trust themselves enough, I think at some point, so they don't give themselves enough credit for that. It's like a lot of people always want to go against how they feel. They want to make the opposite decision. And I'm the guy that I think really, if you trust yourself, right? Like if you really look inside and you trust yourself truly, you will not go against that, because it's always like, I've had it in my life so many times. Family members come to me for advice, right? I'll give it to them. And then it's like, they hear you and they truly understand it. But at the end of the day, no matter how much time you spend with them, they're going to make the opposite decision, right? I think as human beings, it's almost, we almost like, it's one of those things we almost want to fail sometimes, but you don't want to be in the headspace. It's like we're afraid to succeed in a lot of times because we don't know what we're going to do with that success. I think it's the fear of failure that keep people back, but it's also the fear of being successful for a lot of people that mess them up too.
Yeah, well, that helps. Meditation helps with that, because like with success, it's definitely like as a performer, when I'm on the stage and there's a lot of people there, I'm then channeling all of their energy through me. So I feel like success brings about this almost like, oh, am I going to be able to like handle all of that kind of thing? But then that's when the work in meditation and the taking time for myself and getting enough rest comes through, is I just keep breathing and let things happen. So success can feel very daunting, but that's because it is, you've got a lot of like irons in the fire and people who are relying on you, but you can do it,
And that's a good thing. Taking on that responsibility is like what we do all this for, right? I mean, having that responsibility and being able to shoulder that and having some pressure. I think about that sometimes when I really feel like there's a lot of pressure on me. I'm like, it's like game time, this is it. Let's get this done. And so I'd rather have that pressure than not, and not be on an upward trajectory. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, guys, I think that's a wrap for this episode. From the both of us, Kendra, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us and adding value on what we're doing on our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, Kendra. Yeah, it's been great to talk to you. So guys, thank you so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Kendra is working on, check out Kendra, Elisa, Beth, Mickey.com. If you like and we're going to have that in the show notes too, so you can check that out. If you like what you heard today, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or any other major podcast directory. You can also find us on all the socials and on our website at thatentrepreneurlife.com.
And with that said, guys, we also want to quickly give a special shout out to our family and friends, include all of our listeners, our followers, and subscribers. If you find value in our show, guys, please consider making a donation. Even just a few dollars helps us keep things moving along and helps bring value to your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs. And don't forget, guys, to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.